Today's episode of Beyond the Mask is presented by the insurance specialists at Bright Think Wealth Strategies. Find the disability insurance coverage that fits you best right now. Email Robert Smith at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. The show is also made possible by the team at CRNA Financial Planning. Get a free consultation today to be guided through the complexities of investing and financial planning. Just visit crnafinancialplanning.com. We'd also like to thank Helping Hands and OSA EMR for their support of the show. And don't forget, listening to our podcast can earn you Class B credits. For more information on how you can submit them, check out the CE Credit tab on our website, beyondthemaskpodcast.com. Welcome to Beyond the Mask, Innovation and Opportunities for CRNAs, with Jeremy Stanley and Sharon Pierce. We know you spend your day caring for your patient's best interests. On our show, we want to care for you. Join us as we leave the operating room and learn the latest in the CRNA industry. Beyond the Mask starts in 10, 9, 8, 7.
Welcome to Beyond the Mask. I'm Jeremy Stanley, and I've been working with CRNAs for over 23 years, and I'm married to one. And my co-host is
Sharon Pierce.
Sharon's a practicing CRNA for over 20 years, a past president of the ANA, the NCANA, and she's held many other leadership roles. As usual, our goal with every episode is to educate and enlighten CRNAs, and I think our topic today is definitely going to do that. And Sharon, what time is it?
It's time to wake up, Jeremy.
I think it is. Well, good morning again, Sharon.
How are you, Jeremy?
Good. Welcome to our makeshift studio at the NCANA, SCANA meeting up in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina.
Gosh, and the weather is just phenomenal.
Oh, God. I came out this morning. It was 55 degrees, a little chill in the air.
I know you love that.
So looking forward to fall.
You know, did you get a haircut?
I did get a haircut.
It looks really good.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, I think it cut off some of the gray. But it looks really good.
Well, thank you.
You're looking really sharp this morning.
Well, thank you very much.
It's nice to be at a meeting with people.
After having the COVID, it's good to look better and feel better.
So you're coming out?
I'm coming out.
He was a vaccinated COVID.
Yeah.
A breakthrough.
Luckily, it wasn't too bad, but
I knew something was wrong with you immediately
before
you did.
It was really funny. Yeah, we podcasted that Tuesday night, and you were like, "What is wrong with you?"
I know. I texted.
Like nothing. I'm a little tired. I got a massage today, and then Wednesday night I had a fever,
and you texted
Thursday
me.
I tested positive.
And I said, "You better go get a COVID test."
Yep.
But he said, "My wife didn't even notice I wasn't okay." And you noticed. I'm your work wife.
Well, I think we've got another good show put together today, and we have with us Adam Flowe. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
And you are the Chief CRNA down at Duke.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm really honored to be here. Normally, I have to pay people to listen to me. So this is my first time doing a podcast.
Sign their paychecks.
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
I do have 3. Just sent my oldest off to the University of South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
Super excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, our topic today is going to be computerized surgical implants. And Adam, me not being a CRNA and not a medical person, when I first saw that, it had a different connotation than once I read the body of your topic here. So surgical implants doesn't mean the same to me as, I'm just saying.
You're going to learn so much during this podcast.
But, implants to me, I've always gone down a different road. So,
Yeah.
We're not talking about pecs and boobs and butts.
Okay, all right.
We're talking about.
I was really interested when I first saw it, and then I started reading it. I'm like, oh, this is okay.
Well, let Adam tell a little bit about himself. His little bio is just so intriguing.
Tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Adam Flowe. I was born in Virginia. I was a former school teacher. I taught public school English for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I was creating a life of planned poverty for myself. Something else has to happen. And my wife was a nurse, and I loved what she did. And my mother-in-law was a big influence in my life, and she's a retired emergency room nurse. And she's like, "You should join the Navy and become a nurse practitioner. It's going to be this awesome job."
Huh.
And because I trusted
your mother-in-law.
Yeah, absolutely, Sally Floyd. And because I trusted them and admired what they did so much, I went to nursing school. And the first job fair I could go to, I tried to go where I thought was the Navy booth, and it was the U.S. Public Health Service. This is the Commission Corps, the Department of Health and Human Services. The Surgeon General is the chief officer. And I tried to walk away, and they said, no, please listen to us, please stay. And so I listened, and I signed up, and it was great. I had one job as a lieutenant in the U.S. Public Health Service to finish my degree, and I was the only officer on campus. It was this excellent time in my life. And I graduated on a Sunday, and then on the Wednesday night, I was the charge nurse at the Women's Maximum Security Medical Penitentiary in Fort Worth, Texas. So I did time. I did my time with the ladies in Fort Worth for 3 years.
How was it?
It was never a boring job. My wife said it was my favorite job, which I don't know quite how to interpret that. But like anesthesia, it's hours of boredom with moments of terror. That's the same for prison work as well. And so she wanted me to stop working in the prisons after a little while, and we moved back to North Carolina, and I came to Duke, and I worked in ICUs, and I worked in the bronchoscopy suites. And when I was doing bronchoscopy work, I actually started going to the OR, helping the pulmonologists set up their oscillating ventilators for the rigid bronchs. And that's when I started seeing anesthesia for the first time. And I was still actually considering being a nurse practitioner, and I talked to them and said, no, you need to spend a day with us. If you're not going to be a nurse practitioner, you'll be a nurse anesthetist. And that's what I did. And Duke gave me a stipend and a leave of education, and that's been since 2006.
And the rest is history. So was there a certain CRNA that you may have met in that process? Because I tell CRNAs all the time, you don't know who's watching you.
Absolutely. There's one at Duke named Meredith Muncie. She works at our ASC right now. She was very influential to me early. And there's one at Danville who actually was a nursing student with my wife in undergraduate nursing, Scott McMillan. And the two of them were definitely helped guide me.
Yeah, Meredith's awesome.
Yeah.
She's awesome. All right, so tell us what we're talking about today.
So we're talking about computers, essentially.
Okay.
But what I really want to talk about, the story I'm hoping to tell at the conference, is a social one. I think computers continue to change our lives. And so for the most part, these computers have been outside our bodies, and now they're entering our bodies. And I think that's going to have major changes to how we live and the way we do things. And so two overarching things, I think, to set the stage. One, surgical implants are basically anything a surgeon puts in your body. So I'm not talking about hip implants or a new knee or something like that. I'm talking about something that has programmable digital features to it.
Like a pacemaker.
Pacemaker, exactly.
Okay.
Or a brain stimulator.
Very good,
Exactly.
We can do this.
On my presentation tomorrow, pacers are so complicated now, they deserve their own attention. So I'm actually going to purposely not talk about pacemakers because that would just be too much to condense in an hour. And the other thing that's going on, I think everybody listening will immediately know this and appreciate it, is that computers continue to get smaller.
Right.
They get tinier and more sophisticated. And as that has happened, what they can do inside of our bodies is also skyrocketing.
You know, you're exactly right. You've only been out of anesthesia school since 06, right?
08, actually. Graduated 08.
Because Jeremy knows this, because his wife's name is Sarah, but Untitled CO2 monitoring, when I was in anesthesia school, the machine was called Sarah. And she filled an entire room in the OR, and she could only cycle through for end title. So you would intubate your patient, but you may not see the end title until Sarah cycled through to your room. And it was an entire room of a computer. And now we have entitled CO2 monitoring in these little packs or whatever.
Little modules.
Module.
Exactly.
That was the word I was looking for.
I've been really blessed at Duke to work with some very seasoned people and nurse anesthetists who've seen the history of nurse anesthesia happen. I think about Dave Gleason talking to me about
I love Dave.
seeing EKGs for the first time, and you would get one complex.
One blip on the
And then Dan Jenton, who bless his heart died a few years ago, fantastically funny guy. And I remember him telling the story the first time they had pulse oximetry and how I don't need this, and then he was in the middle of the night and he did a chin lift and saw the numbers go up. And so he spent the rest of the case lowering the person's jaw and lifting the person's jaw to see the numbers go up and down to prove to himself that this is for real, this works, I love it.
It's about like LMAs when they first come out. I was like, I am not going to use this at all.
Kathy Briggs, CRNA at High Point, she helped train me. Yeah. And
you know Kathy's been ill.
I do. Yeah.
But she's doing great. I talked to her last weekend.
Also influential on me when I was in school. Yeah. And she was always asking me what's the best way to do anesthesia on a case we're about to do. She was a great instructor. Just a great instructor.
Kathy's just great.
And so at the time I would frequently go to LMA if I could, because I thought less invasive was better. Sure. And she was like, no, LMA stands for let me aspirate. And the people's willingness to adopt the new things as they
Well, but I
occur.
will tell
Interesting.
you, I've had lots of surgeries, and LMA will give you. I had the worst sore throat in the whole world
Yeah.
from that, but I've been intubated numerous times and no sore throat.
Well, the LMAs are big, right? It's
Oh
a really
my
big piece of
God.
plastic going in the back of your throat.
My throat was so sore for days.
Yeah.
So never LMA. I get
No.
that.
No,
I remember
that's not
that.
true. But just know that you might have a sore
We
throat.
think of it as less invasive, but there are actually some cons to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me.
With the size of my tonsils, Sharon, I mean,
Let me see.
I don't want to do it right now. I'll show you later, but
Let's see
they're
them on the
huge.
podcast.
My doctor's like, "Oh, those are the biggest tonsils I've seen." I'm like, I've had them for all my life. They never took them out.
Yeah.
Well,
Can't do it now.
Does your
It
wife
hurts.
complain about you snoring at night?
She does.
well, look at that nose
She
on
does.
you
It's-
too.
Yeah.
It's related.
That's all stopped up.
Well, and I broke it when I was little and never had it fixed, so it's closed off over here too. So yeah.
I've noticed men who snore who have large tonsils, their couch in their downstairs area is shaped like their body.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. No, this is what I get.
Yeah, the chin lift.
There you
And
go.
she doesn't do it like easy. I'll be asleep and she'll go.
Yeah, of
And she
course
pushes
does.
my chin. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I can't sleep. You're snoring for the last hour. And she's like,
Yeah.
she's pushing my
Well,
chin.
that's after. Have you got the bruises from her elbowing you? And
No, she doesn't elbow. She tries to get as far away from me as
Yeah.
she can.
been there, done that.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, I
We
digress.
digress.
Stop copying me. Do that. All right, so let's talk about why maybe we're seeing more of these implants. I mean, technology's catching up, and
It really is. And our understanding of neurobiology in particular and how electricity guides it and dictates it and causes neurotransmitters to increase in their production and decrease in their production, like our actual scientific, basic science understanding of this is escalating as well. And so now with advances in anesthesia, advances in surgery, advances in the size and the safety of the digital technology, we can actually, in a very focused and minute way, guide electrical charges into specific parts of the brain, specific nerves of the body, to improve the patient's lives.
wow, sounds like kind of, I don't know, stuff you thought about years ago that the government's going to get in your body, and then if
Oh,
they
God,
really want you
don't.
to die, they'll push a button and you're gone, right?
Jesus, do not
this is-
feed this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like these
Seriously,
people
that's
that
what
will
it
take
sounds
the
like to me,
COVID vaccine because they think Bill Gates is implanting microchips.
I think it's little teeny tiny micro, like iPhones through my body now.
Yeah, sometimes I get these different tingles going down my leg. and it feels like a
Listen,
phone's ringing. Do you ever have that?
Listen,
I'm like, what is going on? I don't even have my phone in my
shut
pocket.
up. They listen. They don't have to implant a phone on any of us
no, they
because we are all attached to them all the time. Even you, Adam, said I'm sitting my phone away from me while I take this podcast because
Yeah.
it is addictive.
I
You
have to
can't
do the
help
same
but look
thing.
at
Like
it.
if I go to a lecture somewhere, I have to get rid of my phone because it'll go zing, 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 and then I'm thinking about that and I'm
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah, well, then my watch does it.
I
so
did it to be
still-
respectful to you.
yeah.
You are so
Oh,
sweet.
he's a nice guy.
So tell us about some of these different implants.
So-
Outside, there's got to be more than just the brain implant.
There is. That's actually the majority of what I'm talking about tomorrow's brain implants because there's a lot happening there, and I'd like to come back to that just a
Can
little
you
bit.
have one that makes you smarter?
That's the goal.
Oh my
Yeah,
God! Where do I sign
that's
up?
the goal.
Google's going to figure
You're
that
actually
out.
you can give my presentation tomorrow. So here's one. I've had two patients with this one. It's called a phrenic nerve stimulator.
Okay.
And so they wrap electrical wire around the two phrenic nerves. And to remind the audience, the phrenic nerves actually innervate the diaphragm and cause you to take breaths.
Okay.
And so people with spinal cord injury or Lou Gehrig's disease or multiple sclerosis or different types of dystrophy, they start to develop a phrenic nerve dysfunction, weakening their diaphragms, and they can't take adequate breaths. And then they're doomed to shortened lives or lives on ventilators, which are also shortened because of
Yes.
pneumonias and the difficulties there. And these wires then basically stay inside the body and they become antenna that they come down out of the diaphragm and into the abdominal cavity. And then there's a little pacemaker box, like you could easily imagine you attach somebody's belt that have two little circular antenna on them. And you have to figure out exactly how to place them so there's communication through the wall of the abdomen between the internal antenna and the external antenna. And then you start pacing. You can turn the number of breaths, number of stimulations you want on the box. And the electricity goes up to the phrenic nerve, fires, the diaphragm moves and takes a breath.
So are y'all doing these at Duke?
This is a very uncommon surgery. There's about less than 2,000 of
Sure.
these. We have done, there's actually Cincinnati Children's Hospital, I think, and CHOP up in Philadelphia are the primary placers for these devices. Both of the patients I took care of were children for dental procedures. One of them was very
That
challenging.
had one?
Yes.
Ah.
And one of them, the second one I took care of was very challenging because she had actually put on a lot of weight after the surgery. And so now the distance between the two antennae had increased with the increase of her body size.
Yes.
And so it was actually very challenging. So the mother had actually gotten like a bandeau shirt top, like a stretchy top to try to compress the external antenna just the right spot.
Wow.
And when these things fall off or they become malpositioned, you don't get the electrical stimulation and the patient might not breathe.
Oh.
So this is very, very frightening. And so at the time, Craig Weldon, who Emily Funk will know, and was a pediatric anesthesiologist with, and he and I took magic markers, and with the mother, we circled on the body the best place for these external antennae, and then we taped them down, and then we put the stretchy bandeau thing on top of that, not wanting to displace these. Because as you wake a patient up out of anesthesia, getting them to return to spontaneous breathing is one of the biggest tricks that we have to perform.
Waiting that Texas minute.
Exactly. And
Till
so
their CO2
if
rises.
you have a patient who's not going to do that without this electrical stimulation device happening, and that becomes a malposition, it's frightening.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this is just kind of cool stuff.
So what other kinds of implants? Are there others that we should be having on our
There are
horizon?
vocal cord stimulator implants, gastric stimulator implants happening, absolutely. Vagal nerve stimulators is a booming field. And this
Stimulate the vagus? That thing's-
exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
That seems counterintuitive.
Well, it's
because
super
I wanna
challenging.
keep- I want to keep that vagus nerve.
I'm not a financial advisor, but I would recommend just looking at some stock and some of these stimulators. The primary indication for this is for people who have seizure disorders that are not responding to medications.
Okay. Yep.
And very similar to what I described for the phrenic nerve, they open up your neck, they tie wires around your vagus nerve on your left side. I'll talk about that in a second. And then it goes down, it's tunneled into your chest, and it looks like a traditional cardiac pacemaker battery pack on the chest, is what you'll see. You do this on the left side because each set of cranial nerves has afferent and efferent fibers. Some go to the brain, some go away from the brain. The left side is 80% afferent going to the brain and 20% efferent going to the heart. The right side's 50-50. And so when you turn the electricity on, you want the electricity to go up to the brain and calm the seizures. It's more complicated than that, but you want to calm, calm the seizures. So when you do the surgery, you have to have atropine ready.
Oh, I bet.
Until the electricity is turned on, you don't know what's going to happen.
That's the truth.
And since 20% of the fibers
And be
there,
ready to do some compressions to move
the
that
electricity
atropine
will
around.
shoot straight down to the heart, bradycardia, even asystole, cardiac arrest.
Well, I mean, this is just kind of making me think of something that happened to my oldest daughter, Lauren. This was a few years back, and she said, "Dad, my hand, I just feel this pain in my hand and my wrist. It hurts really bad." And I mean, it was to the point she couldn't use her hand, and she would cry, it hurt so bad. So we took her everywhere. Couldn't figure out what was going on. There was no reason for this to do this. And finally got to the right doctor, and she said, "This seems indicative of CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome." And I was like, "What the heck is this?" Because Sarah had worked on some cases, and she had said early on, she said, all the things that she's got look like CRPS, but we couldn't get a doctor to tell us this. And what we finally ended up doing was went to an anesthesiologist who she referred to us, and he did a ganglion block. And basically, my understanding of this was the nerves get out of whack from the way he described it to me, and you have to do a reset on the nerves. So the first time it helped a little bit, the second time it took it away, and it was gone.
Yeah.
Never to be seen.
Never to be seen again. We've never had it in our family. Nobody's ever had it. We have no idea why she got it. I mean, they say that it can come back, and it can come
It's
back.
probably physical trauma. I mean, I don't know what happened to her, but some injury to the shoulder.
That's what they said.
Neck,
She played soccer,
Yeah.
and it could have come through
Interesting.
playing soccer.
This is the very basic premise of how cardiac defibrillation works. It's not jump starting a heart, it's resetting the heart. It's trying to allow a powerful surge of electricity to return the heart to its native appropriate rhythm to breathe. And so a similar fashion.
Very similar. The body is so funny. I mean, it seems like sometimes you just
It
have
just
to
goes
do
haywire.
a reset or,
It's
jump
like
start it or whatever.
Restarting a computer.
Right. Yeah, you got to reboot it
Yeah.
sometimes, Anyway, I mean, Adam, this stuff is very interesting, and obviously I don't think the average CRNA out there knows it. How did you get so involved in this?
So one of the reasons I wanted to tell this story is because I feel like at Duke, which is tertiary care center and academic center, this is a place we're seeing a lot of these things in their conception and in the beginnings. And so I'm hopefully here today to sort of share that, because I really do think, particularly the vagal nerve stimulators and the brain stimulators are about to explode in their presence in our community.
Yeah.
And they'll be outside the academic centers. In fact, vagus nerve stimulators, I know for a fact, are being placed in community hospitals in North Carolina right now.
Well, since you mentioned Emily earlier, I'm just going to say Emily Funk is in the room with us. We're not going to make you talk, Emily, but and she's the program director down at Duke now, so she's sitting and listening
not
to
program
us.
director, just faculty. Not
Just
program
faculty.
director.
I mean, just faculty. I don't know why I said
I don't know, but just
I'm
is
thinking
such
of
a
you
word.
being chief and just faculty, but one day you'll be program director.
She tells me what to do.
But we're glad to have her in here. She's sitting in here with us today. So.
As a CRNA, you spend years preparing yourself for this career, so we don't want to see you lose out on any of the income you've worked so hard to earn. The best way to protect yourself and give you the confidence that a major life event won't disrupt your financial future is through disability insurance. We've known disability income specialist Robert Smith for many years and have seen the work he's done with nearly 2,000 CRNAs over multiple decades. He can help identify any gaps in your existing coverage and fill those gaps by finding the best value on a policy. Contact Robert and let him know you heard about him on our podcast. Send him an email at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. That's rsmithjr@financialguide.com. Or call him at 504-394-6557. Protect your greatest asset as a CRNA, yourself and your ability to earn a living by adding disability insurance to your financial plan.
So talk about, because the majority of our listeners are CRNAs and anesthesia providers, are there things that make it difficult for anesthesia providers in this environment doing these stimulators?
They are. So the surgeries where we place these devices, typically they're pretty straightforward, and we can know the risks ahead of time. The real challenge is when you receive the patient with a stimulator for some other surgery. Like for instance, if they have to go into an MRI, or you want to do a laparoscopy and they have wires that are in their abdomen. So being aware of and the risks and needs and special considerations for a stimulator for the continued life of that patient as they continue to come for healthcare into the OR is key. And that's one of the main points I want to drive home too, is just like you would want to interrogate a pacemaker to understand what its functionality is, whether it defibrillates, what kind of pacing it's providing. All these other kinds of stimulators have their own program, their own story. That if you're going to be a strong anesthesia provider, you really need to have mastery of, if not familiarity.
Sharon, have you done anything along these lines? And
No,
nothing?
I have not. But I appreciate your point about taking care of them and for other things that they're having done. Just like, in the endo suite, we have people come in who've got the internal defibrillators and things like that. And I just say, has that thing ever went off? Because it'll take you to your knees.
That's right.
Whenever it does. But
that is the story. I mean, that is the exact situation I think is going to be the greatest challenge for the anesthesia provider going forward. Is that the human body is not going to just be the human body anymore.
Right.
It's going to be the human body with computers incorporated into it.
Right.
you are exactly right. And now we do so many things outpatient. So, you think you're going to be insulated because you don't work at Duke.
Right, and you're not.
And you're not going to be insulated because you're going to be doing them in the community hospitals, you're going to be doing them in the offices. And
Well, that could be a whole nother podcast about, how do you train SRNAs to deal with this moving forward? I mean, I'm sure that it's got to be in the curriculum now.
tell us, Emily, is it in the curriculum?
She's saying yes.
Yes.
So, and Adam can answer to that too, I'm
it's-
sure. So.
It's kind of an esoteric topic, and if you think about the larger 330 million Americans, the number of millions of Americans we talk about is really quite small.
Right,
But if
right.
you don't get it right, the impacts are going to be huge.
Right,
So I think
right.
it's probably something we need to spend more and more time considering.
Yeah, and I mean that's the way we're moving. I mean that's what this is going
Well,
to.
implants, and one of my daughters has had diabetes since she was 5, and they've talked about being able to put an implantable in, and just kind of have a portacath with U400 insulin and have some sort of system inside that could test the blood sugar and be a closed loop
Absolutely.
system. So that's going to be something I'm sure that's going to pop up, though I've been waiting 30 years.
So we're starting to see patient-owned insulin pumps come to the ORs that actually work in conjunction with a smartphone.
Yeah,
It's
my
great
daughter
stuff.
has one.
Right, but that's a whole other thing. Like, we've never allowed the patient to bring a smartphone into the OR before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Do
daughter
they,
has
do they record
one.
with it? Does it interfere with things? It's just like we worry about employees, smartphones.
Well, you know, I've been lecturing on diabetes for many, many years, and I used to have this cartoon in there that said if they can ever let the smartphone be a glucometer even, and it can be,
Yeah.
and now what it's evolved into, and so now I keep that slide in my talk because it's been in there for years,
Yeah.
and now it's for real.
Yeah, I've watched people hold the phone up to their arm to a little sensor, and it immediately gives them a blood glucose reading. It's incredible.
Yeah, but now if they can get it all implantable, think about that.
Yeah.
It's not because she's got a sensor for that, you know, the glucose, checking her glucose, and then she's got something for her insulin. So she's got all these things stuck on her from the outside. Eventually, what I'm hearing from you, they'll all be implanted on the inside.
I think there's a very, very strong likelihood.
Well, I hope it's sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, also, you know, I sit on the Plan Giving Advisory Council for Wake, now Atrium, Wake Forest, and they have Dr. Atala, I mean, who is well known around the country for regenerative medicine, and he tells us on a call, this was last year sometime, but you know, they've been growing bladders and putting them in children now for years. And he said within 10 to 15 years that you need a heart, they're going to grow you a heart from your own cells, and then they'll implant it in you. You need, you know,
But they've
any
been
type
saying
of
that
organ.
for a long time,
Yeah,
as
I
long
guess
as
the
I can
technology
remember.
is just moving along so greatly, and they're doing stuff there that they don't talk about in public.
Well,
which
sure.
is
What was
very
the
interesting.
sheep? The first clone?
Dolly. Dolly,
Yeah.
yeah.
How long's that been?
Oh,
Long time.
Yeah, 1990
Yeah.
or so, I think.
Are you
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
Dolly's that? I thought it was older than that.
Maybe
Well,
80s.
was that was in England, wasn't it?
It was. I think governmental support for stem cell research will be the thing that really
Right.
escalates
Oh,
that
it
particular
will.
way.
Yeah,
of-
well, you know, the
Yeah.
R's put a kibosh on
Yeah,
that,
and
and then
it's-
there were only 18 stem cell lines
Yeah.
available that
That's
you could
challenging.
use. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's challenging.
Yeah.
Can I jump forward to Sharon's comment about being made smarter?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, a deep brain stimulator is the same kind of idea where you go through a mini craniotomy experience and 2 holes are drilled into your head, and they precisely place electrode wires into portions of your brain and connect it to a battery pack. And then they
Okay.
send little micro shocks of electricity into your brain. And this has been going on actually since like 1977, but it's been escalating rapidly in the past 10, 15 years. And we have 2 of the primary surgeons doing this in the country at Duke. And the primary indications are Parkinson's disease
Right.
and dystonias and essential
Right.
tremors.
Okay.
And this is another one of those situations where it's mainly hours of boredom and no terror, because usually nothing too bad happens in these unless there's air entrained into the brain.
That's a problem.
That's a problem during the surgery. But typically, you're just there kind of helping along, and it's an awake patient you're talking to and just trying to keep comforted.
Wow.
Which is so weird.
It's so weird. Well, the
I
brain
remember
brain
when
doesn't
they-
feel. So once you get through the
Right, right.
scalp, it's not painful.
It's
I
like
did not know
what?
that.
What
So there's
was
no
the-
nerves.
Yeah, there isn't.
No
It's
sensing
just like
nerves.
that
Okay,
movie,
okay.
Silence of the Lambs or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, where he had his head off. And,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of like
With a
that.
nice candy.
I don't think I could do it.
That's it. I knew you would know.
Yeah, I totally know it. The deep brain stimulators you will be won over immediately by the quality of life improvement for your patient, because they will go from not even be able to make a mark on a piece of paper with a pen. They turn it on and they can make complex
Yes.
shapes like spirals.
Now, I haven't worked at Forsyth in 16 years or so, but it was in its infancy then,
Right.
and Bill Bell was doing these things, and it was the coolest thing.
And you have musicians who want to play their
Yes.
guitar again. They bring the guitar to the
Yes.
OR,
Oh, wow.
and
I've seen
they
this.
can't even control their hand to plug the
Yep.
strings. They turn it on, they start playing a melody.
Yep, it is
That
so
is
cool.
amazing.
And then
It's
it was in
amazing.
its infancy. I'm sure
Yeah,
it
it's
is
amazing.
way advanced now.
So,
Am I going to be smart?
the quality of these deep brain stimulators and what we can do for them, because the digital technology's gotten better and our understanding of neurobiology's gotten better. Now we're treating other conditions like OCD, drug addiction, alcoholism, depression,
Really?
stroke rehabilitation. And that's all happened like in the past 4 years, basically. This is all things that have gone on like since 2017. And these things haven't hit broadly with the same way as treating tremors and Parkinson's has, but it's right on the cusp. And then you think about the number of people that have depression issues that may not be
Yes.
responding to medication or needing ECT.
So it's internal ECT.
Essentially.
Basically.
For the depression ones, it totally is. And for the OCD ones, it's stimulating certain nuclei of the brain to get the right kind of neurotransmitters out so that they don't have the compulsive behaviors and feelings.
Right. Well, what's that going to mean for all CRNAs? Because we're all compulsive.
That's right.
And that's what makes us good at our jobs.
For the stroke patient, it's going back to the cerebellum around the motor control and allowing this electrical activity to sort of reinvigorate the actions of the cerebellum. And all of a sudden, you go from not being able to use your hand, and there's the first patient very famously made Thanksgiving dinner the next year.
Wow.
After her deep brain stimulator was placed.
So it's stimulating different parts of the brain depending upon what's going on.
Brain
Gotcha.
is extremely complicated.
Yeah.
And there are neurotransmitters.
Some people's are.
Yeah. Well,
What is it? They show a man's brain and it's got a beer and a remote.
this is a complex podcast. I'm here to say the brain's complicated. Different parts of the brain, they're
Right.
typically called nuclei or ganglia, secrete different ones than neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, etc. And imbalances these things is what lead to these problems. And so by stimulating them, you can either cause an increase of one or a decrease.
Huh,
and so there's
So
lots of
what
science
it,
behind
in the wrong hands, though.
Okay,
Back to
so-
your conspiracy theory.
Let me jump forward. Elon Musk,
Oh Lord, where are we going with this one?
visionary,
Yes.
total social transformer. He's altered
Right,
e-commerce. He's altered the way we
Absolutely.
think about transportation.
Yes.
He's trying to get into space.
Yeah.
He has another company, and he started in 2016. And it's called Neuralink. And
Neuralink.
Neuralink.
Okay.
It does not have a human recipient yet.
Is this the thing that controls your body through the computer or your brain through
Yes.
the computer? Okay, I've
Yes,
heard about
it's
this.
a machine-brain interface company.
Yeah.
If you look at the website, that's how they bill it.
Yep.
So would this have implications for people who are
Everything.
paralyzed?
Everything.
Especially, I mean, you know, we've been researching that forever. I was an ICU nurse. I'm not an old ICU nurse.
I was like, I can't
a
believe
neuro,
that coming out of your
neuro.
mouth.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I started out, neuro ICU, and I just found all of this about the brain just absolutely fascinating. Why do some people with brain injuries wake up, some don't? I mean, just all kinds of things. I worked with Eben Alexander. Remember, his son is the one who wrote the book about he saw heaven, but I worked with his daddy.
All right.
And he was incredible. And I'll never forget one thing that he taught us. We used to put them in pentabarb comas.
Yeah.
Put them on Pavulon, let the brain rest. And when we would take them off the pentabarb, he always said, watch them, and if they cross their feet at the ankles, they're going to get better. And they would. And what difference does that make?
Yeah.
But he was right on the money. One of the most observant men I ever met in my life.
If they're strong enough to do that, the signs are good.
What does that mean in the brain, and where's that interface? I mean, but he was just super observant. He was always right.
So Elon, when he formed this company, he started off with language very similar to what's going on currently with deep brain stimulators. We're going to improve quality of basic function. We're going to treat Parkinson's and motor dysfunction and things like this. But what he very quickly started saying is, I want to put a Fitbit in your skull.
Mm-hmm.
And so his conception of this, if you read at all, and it doesn't take much reading, is really this Fitbit in the skull, this Neuralink, as a deep brain stimulator is now not just going to be a medical treatment or a curative device, it's going to be a consumer electronic.
Okay.
He is on record saying, I want you to be able to start your Tesla with your brain and drive it over to you so you can get into it.
Oh my God. Well, you're going to need a Fitbit. I mean, heck, we won't even get up and pick up the remote. And that's why we're having obesity problems, and now our car's going to come get us.
And it goes way beyond like sort of that toy level
Wow.
novelty trick. I mean, who's going to have a brain surgery just so they can do turn on a car? But the deep brain stimulators we're currently placing at Duke have 10 to 12 electrodes on them. The Neuralink has over 1,000.
Wow.
So the complexity of the device that he's placing and what they're going to be able to do with it is massive. So I'm really torn about this because the idea of brain surgery as a consumer pleasure item really doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I mean, you don't want anybody screwing with your brain.
No, or Elon Musk to have the off switch
Right. Yeah. And I also thought,
on his own computer.
well, if I remember right, I read about some of this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I thought also that the technology he was working on would be, it could keep you alive. I mean, it basically runs your body, and you've
What
got kind of
does
your
that mean?
head.
I mean,
Your head, but the computer's running everything.
well, it's like an exoskeleton.
Improved coordination
Yes.
of your bodily functions,
Right.
increased access to memory, heightened focus, heightened reaction times. There's some very sort of basic levels where people who could afford this technology might actually start to have like advantage within social competition.
Wow, there's a
That's big.
lot to unpack.
That's
right
a lot right there.
Yeah.
There. Well, and I mean,
We're going to have to get Elon on the show,
Yeah.
Sharon, to talk about this.
I'll call him.
So.
I have his cell phone number.
There is a macaque, a monkey named Pager.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not commenting on whether it's okay to do surgeries on animals, but regardless, on
Right.
the second animal they put a Neuralink in was Pager, the monkey.
Right. Well, I guess better the monkey than you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I always wonder if maybe a human already does have it, just nobody's announced it. Every now and then Elon's got a little bit of a screwy look to his face. They taught Pager to play Pong, the video game, with a joystick.
Okay.
And there was a little mechanical straw that fed him banana slurry when he did well. And so he very quickly mastered Pong, manually doing the joystick with a reward system of getting banana.
Okay.
Great. They take him away and they put a Neuralink in his skull. So they do a cranioplasty type procedure. They do burr holes, they place the wires, and he heals. They turn it on, they bring him back to his Pong station, they disconnect the joystick, and he's playing.
Disconnect.
The joystick, he's holding, the monkey is using the joystick, he thinks to control what's going on the screen. The joystick is no longer connected. The Neuralink is connected to the video game.
No.
Oh,
This is-
so
you
he's
can go on
doing it
YouTube
to
and
his
see the
brain.
video of this
Wow.
today.
So, what do you? What's the word you would look for on YouTube? Joystick monkey or?
Neuralink monkey, Pager the macaque.
Okay.
And the monkey's still using the joystick because,
But it's not connected.
It's not
and
connected.
he's moving it with his brain.
yes.
Wow.
That's a little.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Wait, so
Think
maybe
about how much
I.
more work you could get done, Sharon.
Well, but I'm just thinking about how I could get Pierce to do what I wanted him to do.
That's never going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to work.
Today's show is brought to you by the folks at CRNA Financial Planning, an independent consulting firm that offers financial planning services exclusively to CRNAs and their families. From planning for a child's future college expenses to building a predictable income stream in retirement, the firm is committed to offering you comprehensive financial services, customized to fit your unique needs and objectives. If you have questions about your financial future, get them answered. Call the team at 855-304-3748. That's 855-304-3748. Or go online to crnafinancialplanning.com.
So I suspect that Elon Musk would not respect me. Like, he probably thinks my mind is soft and my drive in life is weak and my aspirations are not high enough to be at the table with him. And he's probably right. I'm okay with all those assessments.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he and I would ever be friends.
Right.
But you have to admire him for all the things he's been able to do.
And
Yeah.
thinking outside of the box. I mean, most anesthesia providers were very analytical, numbers-driven
Yeah.
kind of people, not that strategic. I mean, I'm referring to the Herman brain dominance.
And risk-taking.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
not we're
Yeah.
not those
Yeah.
people. So yeah,
I think acknowledging that about him is that it could lead to us having like really superior, awesome improvements to the kind of technology that will improve people's lives for disease. But I think the cost is going to be
astronomical.
astronomical, not only to the patients who can afford to get this, which is a whole other argument around
Right.
haves and have-nots and social
Right,
divide.
right.
And that's going to that.
But how
spread's
practical
gonna
is this? Because like the Tesla was supposed to be cheap.
Yeah.
And the first ones came out at over $80,000, and the new Tesla 3 is still not an inexpensive car.
Right, right.
How much are they now? I
I
don't
think
know.
35-ish,
Oh, that's
don't
not-
quote me, but
40s, 45, something.
yeah,
And
it's
the higher end,
half the
100s.
price. But still, The average American who doesn't have $10,000 in savings is not
Right.
about to go get the Tesla 3.
Right.
An average salary of $28,000.
They basically can't afford to pay for iPhones out of their pocket either,
Right.
much less a Fitbit in their skull.
Right.
He has said that he would like for these to happen at about $5,000 a pop. I don't know if that's possible.
You can't even hardly buy a computer,
I know.
a laptop.
And he always is coming low. He always estimates low, probably for the appeal of the thing to what the final cost is actually going to be in all these endeavors he's been
So
on.
in
Well,
other
they get
words,
into
that-
would insurance
Yeah.
even cover
Well,
any of this?
This is like the $6 Million Man. You know, it was a show that we used to watch in the 80s.
He's in my presentation.
Really?
Yeah.
Lee Majors.
Yeah.
I had a crush on Lee Majors.
Yeah.
What was his name in the show? That was
Steve Trevor.
Steve Austin.
Steve Austin.
Steve Austin,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
he was married to Farrah Fawcett, for God's sake. And
Yeah.
he was the $6 Million Man just because he was married to Farrah.
So
Yeah.
sci-fi becomes reality.
It
Yeah.
does. Well, it's like George Jetson's and the
the
movers.
flying
What
cars.
is it now?
Yeah.
They're you know, the escalators and the movers
And
that
the-
they have in the airports.
The 1930s
People
Dick
movers.
Tracy
Yeah.
comic strip, there was a little two-way radio he had on his wristwatch.
Right,
Yeah.
and
And
now
then
you
got
talk
it on
over
there.
watch.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
the Jetsons and Inspector Gadget came along, and now they were video
Yeah.
components, and now they're just real.
Yeah.
Crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
it's good stuff. I mean, and technology is moving rapidly. I think was it doubling every 7 years or something right now.
I've heard that.
And I think within the next few years, they're saying it's gonna double like in less than a year. So the technology that we have now, looking back, think about how far we've come just from 2000 to now. Because I mean, in 2000, none of us were really using the internet that much. I mean, a little bit, but now it's a daily occurrence. We got it on our watches, we got it on our phones. What's it going to be like in 20 years?
And how to keep and
How do
just
you
how to
keep
keep
up with it?
well,
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember talking to my grandfather talking about when they got electricity in their house and they could each go and turn the switch on and off once.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and to go
Yeah.
from that, I just took my mother-in-law, who will be 90, to get a new iPhone.
Yeah.
20 years from now, there's going to be these awesome, hard-to-get tickets that go on sale at this one moment. Or there's going to be a stock tip you really
Yeah.
want to act on.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be this thing on eBay that you've been waiting forever.
Yep.
eBay that was
You're going to think about
fueled
it.
by the PayPal that Elon Musk helped
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah.
And somebody's just going to sit there in their chair and already have it.
Yeah.
And the rest of us like, oh, when I
It's
get
crazy, it's scary, but it's also a little bit exciting
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
kind of think about it. I mean, you know, the bad thing about it is, you know, us humans screw everything up. So eventually it'll be used for not good as well. So
home, we don't understand how healthy it is or how long the body can tolerate having foreign pieces of plastic and metal inside of it.
right. Right.
I work in plastics. I mean, I know
Yeah.
even breast implants don't last forever.
Knee and hip.
No, I don't know personally because I
I-
haven't had it done.
Sharon, I'm glad you prefaced that. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. And there's nothing wrong if people have had it done. I mean,
No.
we got to say that.
No,
Yeah,
it put
Sharon.
me through. It put my
Sterile
kids through college. I put them
Titanium knee replacements.
Right.
They can last a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple mechanical joint, but this is different.
Right.
This is something that might start interacting with the fluid content of your body,
That's true.
or the electrical interference that's normally inside in your
Well,
body.
Body starts to
Well, reject it.
Exactly.
It rejects
Exactly.
everything.
So there's a lot of unknowns here.
Yeah. I mean, this is really interesting. Adam, as we kind of wrap up, anything else you want to conclude on or get across to our listeners?
Listeners for CRNAs, keep learning.
Yeah, that's
The environment's
very
going to
true.
continue to change.
That's the
Keep
truth.
learning.
Yeah. And everybody needs to Google Neuralink Monkey and check that out
Yeah.
as well.
We're gonna Google
We're going
it.
to do it as soon as Adam leaves. I'm going to pull it up.
Also, if you haven't done a deep brain stimulating surgery, look up guitar player DBS, and you can see somebody all of a sudden start to
I've
play
seen
guitar.
that.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Huh.
It is.
I'm going to write that one down too. Guitar player. Yes. Okay. All right, Sharon, your favorite part.
I know. The lightning round. So are you gonna let me have the first question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You know, I love this. What is your favorite song and why?
I like Try a Little Tenderness.
Yes.
Anything by Otis Redding. Try it just reminds me of my wife. She's from Georgia.
Ah, got you a Georgia peach.
Georgia Peach. All right, so if you won the lottery, what would you do?
I'd retire.
Would you?
I would.
You would retire.
I would retire. I would do good works.
Okay. But
Yeah.
what would you do, Adam?
I would.
I'm very interested.
I would
in
be.
You would not sit at home
No, I
with
couldn't
a
do that.
stimulator in
No,
your
no,
brain.
no. I would be at the local middle school library for free, helping the kid put books in kids' hands.
that. Okay.
So you're still a teacher at heart.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's
I
what
want to be
I'm
a principal
hearing.
like my dad. I said Chief CRNA is basically like being a principal. The school's different.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm doing the same job.
I'm going to leave that one alone because I know a lot of chief CRNAs and I hear a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know.
Emily's never had to come to the office. So it's good.
Well, if you could go back in history, what era would you go to?
I think colonial America is fascinating.
But yet, I mean, what a dichotomy. We're talking about brain stimulators, which fascinates you, but you want to go back to a time when they didn't even have electricity.
Yes. I
Simplistic.
I grew up in Tidewater, Virginia, Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown. They were all within a stone's throw of my house. And
History there.
Oh my gosh, just all the things that are happening and the courage to
Oh,
have come
yes.
across the ocean, the courage to start a nation, the courage
I
to
can't imagine that.
become
We talked about
independent.
that.
I mean,
They
it's-
say we're all from people who had ADD, because
Yeah.
who gets on a boat?
yeah.
Not knowing where you're going,
Not
how you're
knowing-
going to get there.
Yeah, they all had ADD.
And they thought the world was flat.
Flat.
You know, so you could have fallen off the edge. I mean, you know.
Racial justice,
Yes.
social justice. I think we could have started things differently then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world is the world. I mean, if somebody could go back in time and also maybe
Change it.
help turn the tide of certain things that we did,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been a great time to do it when you're forming a new country.
I don't know, but do you not believe that we are where we are because of the things? It's just like people who have a divorce, you know. Jeremy wouldn't have married Sarah if he wouldn't have gotten divorced from his first wife. So,
Yep.
you know.
Despite all the hardships in the world and the terrible things that happen in other countries, in our country, life is sweet and good.
You're not
The
kidding.
way that we get here is awesome,
Yeah.
but there's things that we can do better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Always.
Absolutely. All right, if you could have dinner with someone alive or dead, who would it be?
I'd go with Abraham Lincoln.
Why?
I want to hear what he's thinking. The stresses of worrying about who's going to be in OR versus the stresses of like, is this state still with the country?
Yeah.
I just can't imagine.
And to imagine he lost 7
Oh, yeah.
elections.
His fortitude and
Yeah.
perseverance, just incredible.
And he wasn't a healthy guy.
No.
I mean, that was the other part of
Marfan.
it. So,
Yeah.
But
You know,
very
they were
smart.
talking about exhuming him to test him.
I've heard
I think
this.
he had Marfan's
Yeah.
Huh.
syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, I was born on Abraham Lincoln's birthday,
I did not know.
the year that John Kennedy was shot.
Hmm.
You know, you've seen that list
Yeah.
about the Kennedy and the Lincolns.
It's kind of cliche that the President of the United States is the leader of the free world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if Lincoln had acted differently, written differently, spoken differently, believed differently, he himself really could have altered the way the Civil War played out. Tons of things that happened.
Yeah, coulda,
Tons.
woulda,
It's
shoulda.
incredible. One person's
Mm-hmm.
writings and speech.
Yeah.
And he was a man of few words.
Yeah. But carried a big stick.
Yes.
Well, Adam, this has been great. So nice to have you on the show. We appreciate you being here and all the good you're doing and taking care of CRNAs out there and your teacher heart, which obviously makes you a good chief as well, I'm sure. So thank you again for being on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Sharon, I think it's a wrap.
I think so.
Well, we want to thank our listeners first and foremost
Absolutely.
for listening to Beyond the Mask with Jeremy Stanley
Sharon Pierce.
and Sharon. If they like our show and want to help us, what do they need to do?
They need to like us, share us, tell all of your friends. Please leave us a review. We just found out that the algorithm, which is something a little bit above my pay grade, the more reviews you get, the higher you go in the algorithm.
But only if it's because
Positive.
there's enough negativity. in the world,
Amen to
right?
that.
All right. Until next time.
It's a wrap.
Have you thought about what would happen if you weren't able to work for 2 or 3 years? You know, on average, 25% of people will file a disability claim, and most of us aren't prepared for that loss of income. Every CRNA needs to protect their biggest asset, yourself, and your ability to earn with a disability insurance policy. We recommend contacting Robert Smith, a master disability insurance specialist with more than 30 years of experience and 1,800 CRNA clients, to find the coverage that fits you best. The best way to do that is to send him an email at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. That's rsmithjr@financialguide.com, or call him at 504-394-6557. Beyond the Mask is made possible by the team at CRNA Financial Planning. With almost 2 decades of experience, the firm guides CRNAs through the complexities of investing and financial planning. Schedule a free consultation today by calling 855-304-3748 or go online to crnafinancialplanning.com.
Hi, this is Jackie Rolls, President of the International Federation of Nurse Anesthetists and President and founder of Our Hearts, Your Hands, a global anesthesia support community that takes donations to allow nurse anesthetists in low and middle income countries to go to educational programs, buy equipment, or textbooks. Your donations are tax deductible, and we would appreciate your support.
OSA EMR is a free anesthesia EMR developed by CRNAs that you can download and use on an iPad. Our nonprofit mission is to make sure that solo and small practice CRNAs can digitally record their anesthetics. To learn more, visit osaemr.com to download and consider donating to our cause. Remember, for CRNAs, data is destiny.
Be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you like to listen to shows. Also be sure to check out BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. Each episode is posted there with a corresponding blog post, and we timestamp important parts of the episode to help you quickly get to the content you're looking for. Also check out the special series section on the site. You can follow along and catch up on the CRNA History Series, episodes specifically about political conversations in the industry, or try the CRNA Personal Finance Series. It's all on BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. And if you have a question for the show or want to be a guest, or even suggest a particular topic, fill out the contact form on the site or send an email directly to us at info@BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. And lastly, let's take the conversation social. Check out our Beyond the Mask podcast Facebook page and Facebook group.